Picture this. It's 3:00 a.m. Your room is completely silent. Your body is utterly exhausted, heavy with the weight of a long day, practically begging for sleep. But your brain has decided that right now, in the dead of night, is the perfect time to host a mandatory, unskippable review of everything you've ever done wrong. Suddenly, you are staring at the ceiling, wide awake, eyes darting back and forth in the dark. You are reliving that incredibly embarrassing thing you said to a cashier 5 years ago. You are overanalyzing the exact phrasing of an email you sent yesterday afternoon. You are playing out a high-stakes, imaginary argument with a coworker that hasn't happened yet, and realistically, probably never will. You try to roll over, you try to close your eyes, but the thoughts just keep coming, faster and louder, spiraling out of control. Why does this happen? Why is it that the exact moment you finally have nothing to do, your mind turns into a hostile interrogation room? Most people lie there thinking there is something broken inside them. They assume they just have an anxiety disorder, or that they are naturally, inherently overthinkers destined to suffer. They feel lonely, frustrated, and completely out of control. But what if I told you this isn't a personality flaw? What if the anxiety keeping you awake isn't a glitch in your system? What if your brain torturing you at 3 a.m. is actually a highly sophisticated survival mechanism, working exactly as it was designed to? Today, we are going to look under the hood of your own mind. We will explore the ancient evolutionary wiring that forces you to overthink, the specific brain network responsible for your 3 a.m. suffering, and the exact psychological techniques you can use to finally turn it off. To understand why your brain simply refuses to let you sleep, we have to talk about a fundamental piece of your neurological architecture. Neuroscientists call it the default mode network, or the DMN. Think of your brain like a highly advanced computer. When you're focused on a specific, demanding task, like reading a complex book, playing a fast-paced video game, or having an intense conversation, your brain is engaged in what is called the task-positive network. Your attention is entirely anchored to the present moment. Your mental RAM is fully occupied processing whatever is right in front of you. But what happens when the task ends? What happens when you put the book down, turn off your phone, turn off the lights, and simply lie in bed waiting for sleep? Your brain does not just power down like a laptop closing its lid. Instead, it seamlessly switches operating systems. It deactivates the task-positive network and fires up the default mode network. The DMN is essentially your brain's baseline state, its screensaver mode. It becomes highly active whenever you are daydreaming, mind-wandering, or just lying still without external distractions. And the DMN has one primary, obsessive job: time travel. When the DMN is active, it constantly shifts your focus away from the present moment. It drags you backward into the past, forcing you to analyze your memories, dissect your social interactions, and review your regrets. Then, it slingshots you forward into the future, forcing you to simulate possible scenarios, anticipate potential threats, and worry about tomorrow. Now, you might be asking, why on earth would evolution build a brain that tortures itself like this? Why would nature design an organ that actively prevents you from resting? To answer that, we have to go back, way back. For over 300,000 years, your ancestors lived in an environment where missing a single, tiny detail meant almost certain death. If an early human was sitting alone in a dark cave or out on the savannah at night, completely relaxed, totally zen, and not thinking about anything, they were prime targets for a predator. The humans who survived to pass on their genes were not the chill, relaxed ones. The survivors were the neurotics. They were the ones whose brains automatically started scanning the environment for potential problems the absolute second things got quiet. Did I hear a twig snap? Is that shadow moving? Did I leave the fire too low? Did I offend the leader of our tribe today? Evolution literally programmed your brain to treat silence and darkness as a mandatory opportunity to review past mistakes and anticipate future threats. Your ancestors survived because their default mode networks kept them slightly paranoid. But here is where the system breaks down. Today, you are not sleeping in a cave surrounded by leopards and hyenas. You are in a comfortable, temperature-controlled bedroom. The physical threats are gone. The problem is, your default mode network has not received the software update. It still operates on ancient code. It still firmly believes that silence and darkness mean it is time to scan for life-threatening danger. But since there are no literal predators in your bedroom, the DMN latches onto psychological and social threats instead. It grabs onto that awkward joke you made at a party, your career trajectory, your financial stability, whether or not you are a good person. Because there are no external distractions, no TikTok, no podcasts, no work emails to keep the task-positive network engaged, the DMN takes over completely. It runs wild. And when the DMN detects a threat, even a purely psychological one, like social embarrassment, it immediately sends a distress signal to the amygdala, the fear center of your brain. Here is the most crucial, terrifying fact about the amygdala. It does not know the difference between a charging lion and the memory of a bad presentation. It responds to a social threat the exact same way it responds to a physical predator, by dumping cortisol and adrenaline directly into your bloodstream. Suddenly, you are in full fight-or-flight mode. Your heart beats a little faster. Your breathing gets shallower. Your core temperature rises. You feel a sudden, jarring spike of nervous energy. Your body is physically preparing to run for its life, while you are lying perfectly still under a blanket. This creates a brutal, vicious cycle. The physical symptoms of anxiety trick your brain into believing the threat is real and immediate. This makes the default mode network overthink even harder, searching desperately for the source of the danger. That intense overthinking signals the amygdala to release even more cortisol. Round and round it goes. The gears spin faster and faster, and falling asleep becomes physiologically impossible. So, how do you stop it? How do you turn off a survival mechanism that has been hardwired into your DNA for hundreds of thousands of years? The first thing you have to realize is what doesn't asterisk work. You cannot simply command your brain to stop thinking. In fact, the psychology of thought suppression proves that actively trying to block a thought only makes your brain hyperfixate on it. It's the classic, don't think of a pink elephant paradox. Instead of fighting the default mode network, you have to outsmart it. You have to use cognitive behavioral techniques to trick the DMN into standing down. The absolute most effective technique for 3 AM overthinking is a practice called cognitive dumping. When your brain is endlessly looping over a problem in the middle of the night, it is doing so because it believes the problem is unresolved, unrecorded, and therefore highly dangerous. It acts like a frantic assistant who refuses to let you forget an important task. It will not let the thought go until it knows the thought is safe. So give your brain exactly what it wants: externalization. Keep a physical notebook and a pen on your nightstand. Not your phone. The blue light from a screen will suppress your melatonin and destroy your circadian rhythm. A real analog piece of paper. When the overthinking loop begins and you feel that cortisol spike, sit up. Turn on a very dim light and write down exactly what you are obsessing over. Make a bulleted list of your worries. Write down the embarrassing memory. Write down the to-do list for tomorrow. Tell your brain, I have recorded this. It is safe outside my head. We will deal with it tomorrow. By physically transferring the thought from your mind to the paper, you are sending a powerful neurological signal to your amygdala that the threat has been registered and contained. The assistant can stop shouting. The looping stops. The second technique is a preventative measure known as structured worry time. The reason your brain ambushes you at 3 AM is almost always because the night time is the very first moment all day that you haven't been deeply distracted. Between your phone, your job, social media, and Netflix, your default mode network hasn't had a single second to process your life. So it saves all that processing for the moment the distractions stop: bedtime. To prevent the 3 AM ambush, you have to give your brain a dedicated window to do its job during the day. Schedule 15 to 20 minutes in the late afternoon, specifically for worrying. Sit alone in silence without your phone. Actively invite the anxiety in. Think about your finances, analyze your social interactions, process the stress. Do the heavy lifting while the sun is up. When you do this, you clear the backlog. And later, when you are in bed and your brain tries to bring those anxieties back up, you can consciously interrupt the loop. You can tell yourself, "We already reviewed this at 4 p.m. There is no new information to process right now." Your brain isn't trying to torture you. It isn't your enemy. It is just an ancient bodyguard, fiercely dedicated to keeping you alive, working overtime in a modern world it doesn't quite understand. But once you understand the mechanics of the default mode network, you stop being a helpless victim of your own racing thoughts. You learn to externalize the panic, switch the network off, calm the amygdala, and finally, get some sleep.